No police officer has been convicted today. How does that make you feel? As someone who was at the forefront, is there progress you feel in terms of addressing these issues and ensuring that people are being held accountable in terms of convictions?
Certainly, I would say that there definitely is some progress, in the sense that if you think about where the country was 2 years ago, this was an impossible conversation. It's a conversation that could not be had. And through a lot of strain and a lot of difficulty in the political party that I belong to, and for me, it's political violence or political intolerance is not something that I only faced in 2024. This is a deeply personal subject because I was displaced in 2007. I am a landless Kenyan, a cultureless Kenyan, if I may, because I saw the brunt of what political intolerance can get to the point where we were displaced. And a lot of the people who are taking this matter trivially do not know what it feels like to see your kinsmen have their private parts chopped off with pangas and displaced through several counties. I moved from Nakuru to Eldama Ravine, to Rongo, to Magadi, to the point where you lose a personal identity. This stays in the mental fabric of a person. And what the government did then, there was a Rudi Nyumbani program that gave people about 10 to 20,000, despite the fact that people lost property, people lost lives, and whatnot. And by the time we were getting to the streets, a lot of the people who lost their lives did not lose their lives because they were criminals. And especially, it's rather heartbreaking, and credence to the statement that I made then, that lives were taken. These lives were not just suddenly lost. They were taken by state and some non-state actors who are acting out of nothing but sheer impunity. There is no amount of money that can be used to quantify a life. However, the process of compensation, one does two things. For far too long, we've been documenting these stories, and a lot of the actors in the peace-building sector and restorative justice sectors, we have several reports. We have the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation, we have the Krikler report, we have the Waki Commission report. We've had reports. We're a country of reports. But no government has self-initiated this process before. Governments have compensated before, but this, despite the challenges that it has, despite all its ills, is the first government that has initiated the process. What I was speaking about yesterday in terms of compensation, and I outlined the figures that for fatalities, the amount was guaranteed at 3 million. For grievous harm, it was at 1 million. For moderate harm, it was at 500,000. And for sexual violence or aggravated assault, at 1 million. These amounts, to me, it's beyond the money. It's an acknowledgement. Because we cannot live in a country where, for example, Executive Number Order 1 stands. I totally disagree with that. But I remember when the president was receiving the report from the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, he said that never again will he issue orders to policemen or the members of the police service to harm innocent citizens. This compensation does not, if you follow it up in the 48-page report by Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, does not in any way prevent victims or families of victims to seek restorative justice. If anything, and it does not in any way seek to impair or impact the case. It does not mean that once you receive compensation, this stops. If anything, this is something that we should never again see in our country. Because one day it will be me. I might think that it's too far from me, but then the next time it will be me who will be on the wrong side. So it cannot just slide. On the comment that you raised, at the time I was talking about showing up at the dialogue table, we were being told to give dialogue a chance.
Before you address that, kindly
Right.
allow me to interject. You've said the report says the compensation cannot stop the parents or the affected families from seeking justice. You've heard from Baba Kennedy that they were told they should produce or give evidence. What kind of evidence is needed? How can they have any evidence? It is up to the justice system to ensure that justice is served.
And here I'm just speaking as an active citizen. We must be able to strike a clear difference between people with a mandate, the people who've been mandated to do the work, and active citizens. And here I'm just speaking as an active citizen. If you read the report, the evidence that is required is reason to believe. And what that simply is in terms of evidence is, if you present the evidence it should be able to lead a rational person, a normal person, to conclude that the facts you're presenting is true. So medical reports, OB numbers and whatnot. And even if you have lost those documents, because 2 years is a long time, you might decide to move on in a different way. I have seen that as long as there is evidence, even on socials, that atrocities happened, that could be pursued. That is what I have seen in terms of evidence being pursued. I do not want to speak as an authority because I do not know what it feels like to see a child being harmed. I did not die from those protests. And it's not something that we should turn, for example, into a political discussion. I think this is an opportunity for us as a country to say that, is it possible as a first step to ensure that this does not happen again? And it would break my heart greatly to see that. I would want to use this, for example, as Bonga points to advance a personal political agenda. What I see this as, it calls for a lot of sobriety. I don't think it is easy for parents who've lost their children, parents who've had their children maimed by state actors, to even sit in such a show and be told, for example, to be brief about those things, and sit here and look at us turn it into a political exercise.
Kasmuel,
so, let me just wind up.
I want to hand it over to.
I'll just wind up.
Let me just wind it. Allow me to address that kindly.
So that it's clear.
Allow me to address that. What you've raised. How then can those in positions of power be able to understand what these families are going through if we cannot give them a platform to talk about it? You've listened and you've heard from them. They're saying justice has been elusive. So if they sit back and just relax because there's compensation maybe, and they don't talk about it, they don't come out to seek that justice, how then can justice happen?
What I'm saying is that they should not be curtailed. This uchungu wa mwana cannot be summarized too briefly. I'm not saying that they should not speak. I'm just saying that if they are to speak, they have to be given the necessary audience. So those answers, for example...
Has the government given them audience? Because today you support the government. Have they been given audience by the government? You support the government today?
I do support the government of the day.
Have they been given audience?
I think that they have been given audience.
You think?
It is brief, and please let's. This is what I was saying. This is what I was saying. Let's not turn this into a political spectacle, because all the people that are sat behind me here, apart from the survivors and victims of police brutalities and these parents, a lot of these people have not suffered that bodily harm. A lot of us can still walk with our limbs.
Okay,
so if we turn this into that thing where we want to make it, you're a government apologist, you're not a government apologist, what we are supposed to be looking for is ways to ensure this does not happen again in our country. If we're going to turn it into that, you tell me if it's a political match, I could take that hat as well. But what we need to do is look at it with a human lens without turning this into an item of propaganda that we will
Pretty much, Kasmuel. I was asking that question because you were on the streets and then you crossed over and supported government. But anyways, let me hand it over to Bentu and then...
Definitely, you can see there are a lot of hands here. They want to react to whatever Kasmuel said. But before we get into that, maybe when we look 2 years down the memory lane, what can we pick from there? Or rather, let me rephrase the question. Do you think that the protest achieved its purpose, looking 2 years down the memory lane? And were the lives that were lost really worth that cost? Maybe I can start. The gentleman here.
Good evening once again. And I start by agreeing to the extent that as a country, we need not politicize this moment, because from the discussions we have had from the panelists in the yellow seats, there is tragedy in loss of life, and there is pain in those who have been injured. The government has set out 7 ways through which they compensate. But to a mama here who has lost her son, compensation in terms of money will not resuscitate her son who is dead. As we continue with this conversation, I want to put out this statement. Let this conversation be a dialogue towards seeing how we advance and restrain police brutality and ensure accountability rather than politicizing it. Because I want to share with you that on June 24th, many of us may not agree, but to some certain extent, we have 2 people who contributed to a majority of harm, some of which we have, like our brother Mburu here. We have egocentric politicians here who want to spur up violence. And in the words of Giacomo, I'd rather say that we as the youth do not understand the gains that our country has gotten since they fought for democracy. And if we continue towards whatever the politicians want, we are going to lose this country and we are going to drive it to the docks. So number one, we have not achieved what we went to get at the streets. Why? Because we put ourselves to be guided by thoughts of politicians, not by whatever we thought that we stood for. That has derailed this thing to the extent that politicians drive a narrative and we buy to it. Be so as it may, let me finish by saying this. I believe the government should, out of the 448 over the 1,000 that they have identified, it is high time that the government makes an effort to move down and look at Mama Kennedy and very many other cases, including Mama Mburu, who says that she has used money to a tune of millions, given the time frame that they have been going to hospital. It is high time that we use this platform to spur up dialogue that will ensure that the government looks into this. And as I finish in my last statement, let us restrain from making this a political contest so that you are seen to be knowledgeable in what you don't know, to spur up views. If we do not do that in this show, we are going to lose the essence of hearing a painful story from the mama and the rest. Thank you.
All right, I think we can proceed to the lady in the front.
May I interject?
Sure.
I am not surprised to see Kasmuel here because he never misses on TV interviews as he talks about the people he auctioned. And therefore, I want to say that tomorrow, as we are going to celebrate the people of the lives of the people we lost, we are also going to remember the people who betrayed us as the Gen Zs. I want to say that the people who we started with them this movement are the same people who are dining with the leaders who are killing us. The people who we started with them this movement are the same people who are on payrolls with the leaders who are killing us. So therefore, I want to state very clearly, with their cheerleader being Kasmuel here, I want to state very clearly that we once had a vision on you. We thought that you are a leader. These people went to the street knowing that you are a leader, you are a leader, and you can lead us to the next step. And therefore, I want to say that it is so unfortunate that we had to put the lives of people. And now we can see that the same people are still dining with you guys. Thank you.
Maybe we can take the lady in the front. You can give us your views.
Hi, everyone. I've lacked words while Alan Ademba was saying that we don't politicize this thing. Na leo yeye mchana alikuwa kwa presa ya government as like saying that the protest is not the right way. Another thing, I'll just say this. For sure, Kasmuel, let me tell you something. Maybe we don't show people I was a victim and as like I was shot. But the braveness that I have and the God that I serve, I'll never beg. So despite saying that we don't feel the victims, I'll just say this. We have been in work with Kina Maxwell and Kina Adi for more than 6 months going to Kenyatta, supporting them. Mpaka sa ile mnakata kuwatibu. We are bringing all the things that we do. So we have that pain. Usiseme ati uchungu wa mwana ijuai ni mzazi. We are parents. Like in me, I'll just tell you this. As like, we are not here to argue about the government or anything. I think so at the time babako ama mamako in any funeral in your family, mnakuwaga na memorization, mnaendaga ukumbusho. Muna sahi mna feel pain, mtu akisema wanaenda kwa barabara for that thing. And this is not about, we're talking about politics. Zozote zile ziko kwa hii nchi. But I'll just say this. I think so, Nani Fidel was one of us last show. So, sahi vile amefeel anaeza rambwa kidogo. He feels like anything that we are saying is totally wrong here. And I'll stand still to say, our vision, our mission, one day, mi nasemaga kama comes around. Unajua tunasema ati sijui you have all the powers. Kuna one of us alisema watajaza kikapu. Hiyo it doesn't make any sense in our life. We are here to say that we want to feel the pain. Mi say labda ningekuwa nilikufa because nilishutiwa na nikavunjika hii mkono. But the vocal and the braveness that I have iliniweza nikatibiwa with few time na nikaheal. But sijaika nikaenda sijui kwa compensation. For sure waliandikiwa watafaa kupewa 3 million. And then upigiwe sahi simu. Unaambiwa unapewa 500,000. Mamako ametumia more than that. Hawajali. Wametoa hii kitu to the Kenyan National Human Rights. Sio wamepeleka to the dockets of the president. Unapeleka pale ati story. Mtu anaweza kumwambia ati ndio hivi vitu zangu. Anaweza hata kushtua. Akikupatia hiyo pesa hata atumani mtu nje upigwe. So we are totally in pain for this country. Na ukisema hakuna watu wanauliwa this moment, after 2024 tumepoteza 10,580 kids who are underage. Feel that pain. Maybe siku moja utakuwa mzazi, utaoa, usitamani mtoto wako cause kama comes around. Ile government sahi labda hiko inakusupport, the next government inaweza kukosa kusupport. That's all I can say.
And maybe if we get into maybe I wish to interject. What was the bigger picture of this movement? Because I know there was agitation for good governance, the reduction of cost of living. Do you think that the June 25th, 2024 really achieved this?
Before I get to that, let me refer so that I get it right. First of all, it's hypocritical to appear to distance this conversation from politics, while in the first place, we were shot by politicians under their own orders. This conversation is inherently political to the core. It cannot be separated. The events of June 25th stem from politics, the events that happened just after that. It is not fair to tell the young people to not politicize the killing of Gen Zs by orders issued by the politicians themselves just because maybe you are eating from their own buffet.